It's about time we actually got on these this time around. It's time for the third season review. We are continuing on here today with the Nashville Predators. Now, the Predators went from a team that looked like they were looking decent here heading into this season, made a ton of moves in free agency, and now they currently stand as the third worst team in the National Hockey League this past year. So let's go through the last 3 years. I think it's important to do that. I think it shows the progression of this team, or the regression, I guess I should say. So in 22-23, they went 42, 32, and 8 for 92 points. They were 18th in the NHL, and they actually missed the playoffs. They were really not that far out of a playoff spot. They just barely missed, honestly. They ended up finishing, I think, like 2 or 3 points outside of a playoff spot. And as a result, obviously they missed the playoffs. They pick higher in that draft. But then the following year, they do bounce back. They went 47, 30, and 5 and 23, 24 for 99 points. They were 11th in the NHL, and they lost in round one to the Vancouver Canucks in 6 games. So, a little interesting here with this one. Because I feel like this one kind of gets overlooked or, looked into way too much. Because of, I feel like if it weren't for that, 17 game point streak they went on, they don't make the playoffs. And I think there might be a whole different situation we're talking about here, and maybe they don't make all these moves in free agency. They obviously went out, they signed Steven Stamkos, they signed Jonathan Marchessault, Brady Shea, etc. They signed multiple players to longer-term contracts in hopes to possibly contend for a Stanley Cup. And honestly, it really could not have backfired any worse than it really did in this first season. 30, 44, and 8 for 68 points. That is an over 30-point decrease from last season, and they were 30th in the NHL this past year. They scored 214 goals, allowed 274 for a minus 60 difference. We'll get into the other stats here in a moment, but it was just an absolute terrible season for the Nashville Predators. Honestly, anything that could have gone wrong pretty much went wrong. I think really there wasn't anything or much of anything that really went right for the Predators here this past year. And there were some positives and some good things to look at, but overall it was a pretty rough season from the Predators for sure. They were 20, 18, and 3 at home, and they were 10, 26, and 5 on the road. They scored an average of 2.59 goals for per game, which was 31st. They were second last in the NHL when it came to scoring goals. Yeah, it was rough. And then they allowed an average of 3.34 goals against per game, which was ranked 27th. So overall, again, those are just numbers that aren't good. They are not good. And I'm surprised that goals against is so high with Jose Saros being in net, who was a very good goaltender heading into this year. And now I think he's still a very good goaltender, but his numbers did not do well this year, and now he's probably regretting his life choices, signing that long-term extension, possibly, with Nashville. They had a 21.8 power play percentage, which was ranked 18th, so it was still below average, but it actually wasn't that bad. And their PK was 81.5, which was 7th. I don't know why some of these lower-ranking teams have really good penalty kills or really good power plays. It's really weird to me, but hey, all the power to them, I guess. That's something you can keep a positive here heading into next season. But there really weren't a lot of positives this year for Nashville. It was absolutely a terrible year. With Chicago and San Jose, there are some good things you could have looked at, but really overall, it was a nothing burger of just negativity this past year in Nashville, to be honest with you. Now, their leading scorer was Philip Forsberg, who has been their leading scorer for many years at this point. 82 games played, 31 goals, 45 assists for 76 points. All of those numbers are first on the team. Again, Forsberg looks like a great player. He brings immense value. I thought even last season when the Predators went on that run to the playoffs, I think I even said that if it weren't for Forsberg, I'm not so sure this team really does make it. And I think he deserves a lot of credit. It just sucks kind of where he is, because otherwise he could really get a lot more recognition with another team, unlike a team like Nashville, who may not have as much recognition and wasn't really that good this year either. Jonathan Marchessault then up next in scoring, 78 games played, 21 goals, 35 assists, 56 points this past year. Marchessault's been great as well. Again, we know what this guy can be. He's been all right this year. I think that his numbers definitely decreased, but I thought he wasn't necessarily a big problem with Nashville. He didn't struggle as much as Stamkos or Shea. Of all the signings they did, I think he was probably the best one from this past year. So Marchessault got to give a lot of credit to him. He was pretty decent this year. Now, somebody who really struggled, and he had points where he was looking pretty damn good, but he also had points where, like, if he wasn't scoring, he was doing nothing. Steven Stamkos, 82 games played, 27 goals, 26 assists for 53 points. The decision to move on from Stamkos in Tampa Bay was so controversial at the time, and now it looks controversial for Nashville to even sign this guy to a long-term deal. You could tell that Stamkos' 5v5 numbers were declining in Tampa Bay, and that was part of the reason why he moved on from there and went to Nashville. And the Predators were the team that took a jump on him, and he has just not worked out. Like, I get it, he was nearly a 30-goal scorer, but a lot of those were on the power play. When he struggled, he struggled. I remember he let, like, 16 or 17 games sometimes without even scoring a goal. It was overall just a rough year from Stamkos and the Nashville Predators, and I think he's, like, the main forefront where we're like, ugh, if only that worked out. And again, there's still plenty of years on that contract. This team, I feel like, could honestly bounce back next season. I wouldn't be shocked the slightest. You see sometimes, and I saw this example a ton this past year, you see teams with a ton of new players, they don't really mesh that well together. That was in Nashville. But you also see teams with a bunch of new players that really do mesh well together, and that was Washington this past year. So I think, again, like, it's kind of night and day when it comes to that. But I think maybe if they draft right this year, maybe don't do a ton this next offseason, maybe they can, bring a positive outlook here heading into this upcoming season in 25-26. I think the Predators aren't really looking to be that loud or anything like that. They have a lot of like just long-term contracts and not a lot of cap space. They also don't have a lot of free agents to sign either. They may have a couple of decisions they need to make. Obviously, you might want to make some moves to make this team better, but overall, as of right now, from the look of it, for me, I don't think the Predators team will do a ton this season in terms of just player-wise changes. Ryan O'Reilly, fourth in scoring, 79 games played, 21 goals, 32 assists, 53 points. Ryan O'Reilly is always a great player. I've liked O'Reilly for so long. I wonder if he wants to be in Nashville for their long-term plans, but I do wonder if there is an offer that's too good to refuse. Maybe O'Reilly will be traded, but I don't really know there, to be honest with you guys. And then here's a weird one. Michael Bunting, who has been on 3 teams this season, or I'm sorry, actually 2. He was on 3 teams in the last, he's been on a lot of teams. He's played 76 games, has 19 goals, 19 assists, 38 points. Being completely blunt with you, he didn't do a ton this year for Nashville. He was traded midway through the year to the Predators for Luke Shen. So honestly, I think Bunting really wasn't terribly a big asset for them. I wouldn't be shocked if he's traded in the draft or something like that. I know I said there won't be that much player movement. I mean, within the core. I don't think there's going to be a lot of that this year. I wouldn't be shocked, but I don't think there's going to be. But Bunting is somebody I could see getting traded just because he loves to get traded to places. Roman Josi. And yeah, Josi had a really bad year. And I think a lot of it was just the injuries. He played significantly less games than everybody else. But it was still a really bad year for Josi. 53 games played, 9 goals, 29 assists, 38 points. It's just not a good year from him. It's not what we're used to. I'm pretty sure this is a career low for him, besides maybe his first season in the NHL. I think missing him for a lot of the year really played a big factor in why Nashville was just bad, because Josi can be good on both ends of the ice and is one of the better defensemen in the NHL. And I feel like this year kind of not really got forgotten about, but really did fall off a cliff here a little bit, and it was a little bit concerning seeing how he played out here at this point in the season. But Josi, we'll have to see where things go from here with him. But overall, he had a really rough year, and hopefully he can improve next year. Brady Shea also had a pretty bad season. 82 games played, 10 goals, 23 assists, 33 points. He had some of the worst defensive stats in the NHL this past year. That contract looks terrible right now. It's 6 more years. Not good. Not good whatsoever. I'm very concerned about that if I'm the Nashville Predators. Luke Evangelista, 68 games played, 10 goals, 22 assists, 32 points. Now, there is some young positives here on Nashville. Evangelista, I guess, is one of them. He had a pretty negative year this year. I think it was a sophomore slump. Hopefully next year, maybe with some more ice time, he can play better. But overall, it was a rough year from Evangelista there as well. And hopefully maybe coming into this coming season, maybe he can improve things. But right now, I'm not entirely too sure about that, to be honest with you. Colton Sissons, 72 games played, 7 goals, 14 assists, 21 points as well. Sissons has been there for so long. I think he's more or less just a depth player at this point. He's nothing really too big there to scream about, so there's that. And then finally, Fedor Svechkov, 52 games played, 8 goals, 9 assists, 17 points. He was a rookie this past year with the Predators. I think Svechkov was pretty solid, to be honest. I think he's a very good player, and I think that, continuing things on here, if he can start to, kind of develop a little bit here with Nashville alongside the younger players like Evangelista, etc., maybe there's a positive to be pulled out there from the Predators for sure. But overall, again, you can tell by the offense there wasn't a whole lot of positives. Brady Shea struggled. Roman Josi really struggled. Stamkos struggled. There were some real negatives here with the Predators this year, and those were the biggest things that really kind of held them down. Now, I guess there is one positive, and it's Hussein Saros, who kind of just did the best he could, if I'm being honest. 20, 31, and 6 with a 2.98 goals against and a .896 save percentage. He won 2/3 of the Predators games this past year. His numbers were just below a .900, which on a team as bad as Nashville that was allowing goals left and right, I think overall for Saros, those numbers really aren't that bad. They're complimentary, is that how you actually say that? And then Justice Annunen, who was traded to the Predators mid-season, so these are obviously not all of his stats, but overall this year, 15, 15, and 1, a 3.18, and a .883. Again, just like wrapping it up with everything there in terms of the overall offense this past year, it was a pretty rough season for the Predators, and it was overall just not a good year, honestly. You look at the trades that they made this past year. I have 6 of them on here because the Predators made a lot of moves, and some of them were very head-scratching, but we'll get into that here in a moment. First and foremost, they trade Scott Wedgwood to the Colorado Avalanche in exchange for Justice Annunen and a 2025 6th-round pick. That is an absolute, runaway steal for the Colorado Avalanche. Wedgwood was a very good backup for them this past year. Annunen was not great, honestly. It's proven by his numbers. And you only got a 6. Come on, what are we doing? You could at least gotten a 3rd or something like that for somebody like Scott Wedgwood. Brutal deal there. They traded Michael Bunting and a 26th 4th in exchange for Tommy Novak and Luke Schenn. So, again, I feel like they're kind of underselling on those 2 players there. Novak's a solid young center, and then Schenn was a good defensive defenseman, one of the better ones, actually, for Winnipeg when he was traded there. But yeah, for Bunting, I'm like, why? Why are we getting a 4th-round pick for those 2 guys? And Bunting wasn't even really that great this year. Just feels like poor asset management. The Wild acquired Gustav Nyquist from Nashville in exchange for a 26 second. That's a decent move. I'll give that one to Nashville. That's a decent move. I thought that was a win-win for both teams, honestly. Pittsburgh traded Philip Tomasino for a 4th to Nashville. I don't get it. Honestly, I feel like what I'm seeing here is just the Predators traded away literally all of their young players. A lot of their young assets they had, like Novak and Tomasino, they all didn't look good. And yes, I understand that, not all your young guys are going to be good. And so these guys weren't really that great either this year. But even still, you're trading away just young guys for nothing, pennies on the dollar, essentially. And then they made a trade with Montreal as well, where they acquired Justin Barron from the Canadiens in exchange for Alex Carrier. That turned out to be a great deal for Montreal. Carrier has turned out to be a really good player over there in Montreal. And then Barron just kind of still finding his way here in Nashville. And then they traded Juuso Parssinen and a 26th 7th to Colorado in exchange for Andre Pavel and a 2027 3rd-round pick. That's a decent trade, honestly. The Parson wasn't that great. Pavel's not that great. It was like a mid-for-mid deal, honestly. Just a pick swap, in my opinion. But getting a 3rd-round pick for a 7th and him is not terrible, so I'll give them that. But overall, the trades and things like that, the signings, it's been a pretty bad 12 months here for Barry Trotz. I feel like a lot of the things he's done has really backfired, and overall it doesn't look that great here for Nashville in the current form of time. In the future, though, it doesn't look so bad. But first and foremost, let's take a look at the AHL, where the Admirals went 40-21, 5-6 for 91 points. They were 7th in the NHL, or the AHL this past year, not the NHL. They defeated Rockford in the second round. They lost to Texas in the third round. So overall, obviously, the Admirals were a pretty good team this year. They have been for many years. They're young and kind of old, led by veteran team down there. You have Cal O'Reilly leading the scoring. 68 games played, 11 goals, 38 assists, 49 points. Jake Lucchini, 70 games played, 21 goals, 24 assists for 45 points. Joachim Kemmel, who we'll get into here in a moment more in depth. Ozzy Weisblatt, 64 games played, 15 goals, 25 assists, 40 points there as well with the Predators too. And then Grigory Denisenko, who was acquired mid-season, 65 games played, 17 goals, 22 assists, 39 points there as well. So again, some positives to take away there from the American Hockey League team. They've been a deep team for a couple of years. Maybe you call some of those guys up to the NHL moving forward, but overall, a very good season there from the Admirals as opposed to Nashville, who was very bad. Now in the pipeline, so you look at the prospects here that are coming up in the pipeline for the Predators. You have Tanner Molendyk ranked as their number one guy. 49 games played, 9 goals, 38 assists, 47 points in the WHL this past year. One of the better ranked defensemen from the Nashville Predators and in the WHL this past year. So Molendyk, I would say, behind like Yakimchuk and Perrick. No, Perrick was in the OHL, I'm pretty sure, right? I think he was. I'm pretty sure he was like the second or third best defender there in the WHL in terms of those statistics. So good season there for Molendyk. David Edstrom, who was traded like 5 times before he came to Nashville, played in the SHL this past year. 39 games played, 7 goals, 12 assists, 19 points. Those are good numbers for a younger kid there in the SHL. Maybe Edstrom can become something, but he's been traded multiple times. Joachim Kemmel, as I mentioned, 65 games played, 19 goals, 21 assists for 40 points. Kemmel will be a good player. I think he's played games in the NHL, not this past year, but he has played games. I think those are something that you can look at there as a positive. He might still be like maybe a year or two away from full development, but Kemmel looks decent there for the Nashville Predators as I think their third best ranked prospect. Igor Surin was in the KHL this past year. 41 games played, 7 goals, 7 assists, 14 points. Surin was a very good player in the KHL, put up some solid numbers there out of his first year from the draft. I think those are positives you can look at there for sure. And then Matthew Wood, 39 games played, 17 goals, 22 assists, 39 points. In the NCAA, so he was a point per game in the NCAA and played 6 games in the NHL. Wood will be good. I think Wood will be pretty decent. He's going to be a little bit more time to develop, I think, with the NHL. He might play in the AHL next season. But I think overall that's a positive you can look at there from Matthew Wood as probably a guy who can pan out pretty solid, in my opinion. And then you look at the future. Their draft capital and their free agents that are coming up. Again, it's a short list for the free agents. For the draft capital, it's much longer. They have 3 first-round picks this coming year. They have the 5th overall pick, which is theirs. They have Tampa Bay's first-round pick, and they have Vegas's first-round pick. So they have some options, again, that you can play with those picks and see what you can select there in the draft. This draft is pretty shallow, though, but maybe you can pick up a gem. 2 second-round picks, one of them being Tampa Bay's. A 3rd, a 4th, a 5th, and 2 6th, which one of them belongs to Colorado, and then they have no 7th. Heading into this year's draft. So they have some decent capital there. They have about like 5 picks in the first 2 rounds. That's a pretty positive takeaway to look at there heading into this coming year. And I think overall for the Predators, the present doesn't look so great, but the future looks pretty decent there in Nashville coming up. Now you look at their UFAs and RFAs. You have Jacob Verana and Michael Delgazo as your unrestricted free agents. Not a long list there. Verana was acquired by waivers. Maybe you keep him around as a limited role. Delgazo was a depth defenseman. Nothing too serious there. And then for their RFAs, Luke Evangelista. I imagine it's going to be like a bridge deal or a 1 to 2 year contract in my opinion. Or just a qualifying offer. Nothing too serious there, but overall, it's a pretty quiet offseason in terms of that front for the Nashville Predators. Maybe they come in here and make another move, but at least as of right now, it's looking pretty grim for the Predators heading into the following season. Maybe they make some moves at the draft in the offseason to make this team look better. I think they have the pool. I just don't know if it's ready just yet, and getting a 5th overall pick, which could be like Anton Frundell or Porter Martone, etc., I think you're in a pretty decent spot. So let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below on the Nashville Predators. Thank you all very much for watching. If you enjoyed, make sure to like the video down below. Please do consider subscribing. Anyways, that's it for me. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video.